For this video today, let's take a look at a 22 target pistol. Something kind of neat and fun to go plinking around with. Something that's maybe unique and you can't find everywhere. Let's go take a look and figure out what we're going to go over today. Probably going to be something rare. You might have never seen it before. This might be one of the only videos going over it. Alright, for this video, what should we do? Should we do one on a 10-inch barreled Ruger revolver? Or should we do one on a 10-inch semi-auto Ruger Mark II target? A polymer framed Ruger Great 8 has an 8-inch barrel instead of a 10-inch. Maybe we should go with the stainless Ruger Mark 22. Or the Browning that it's based off of. The Browning Buckmarks are pretty neat pistols in their day. Or maybe something more modern. Do something like the Beretta Neo. That was kind of a cool 22 pistol that came out. Or we can go back a ways and take a look at this Magnum Research Mountain Eagle. This one right here has an 8-inch barrel, polymer made, something that came out in the 90s and kind of disappeared. Yeah, let's do one on this right here. This 22 pistol is what we're going to review today. Alright, so let's take a look at this. This right here is the Mountain Eagle made by Magnum Research. It's a polymer-based 22 pistol. Came out in the 1990s. A company called Ramline made a version of this, the Exactor pistol, I think it was called, made by Syntec and Ramline together. Ramline made a lot of plastic polymer things, magazines and stuff like that, and some buttstocks and everything. And Syntec, I think, did like ammo and stuff. But they came up with this design. Magnum Research kind of designed and made it their own in this version. It came in 6-inch and 8-inch barrels. This one right here happens to be the 8-inch, which is, I think, a little bit more desirable if you're into target shooting and everything. It's really light. The upper here is made out of polymer. Has that traditional triangle-looking Desert Eagle type barrel that kind of distinguishes itself from others. The way this thing was made is the polymer lower and a polymer upper with a steel barrel insert and then the aluminum receiver part on it. It's very similar to the Ruger Mark II as far as the setup and everything. Easy to pull back and release. You have a slide lock if you want to pull it to the rear and lock the slide back. There is a slide lock with it. You have a safety which kind of pushes down and in, and it's a real neat little pistol. The magazines in it, they're polymer as well. They made 15 and 20 round magazines initially, obviously with the crime ban. They ended up going to 10. And one of the Achilles heels with this pistol was the Ramline magazines. The feed lips and stuff would crack. They advertised it as a high-tech polymer back in the 90s. Something that was supposed to be durable, something that maybe police riot shields are made out of and stuff. But overall, it didn't hold up as well as it could. So once these magazines are gone, then they're kind of gone, and the lips will eventually crack and break on a lot of them. But the pistol itself was very accurate and very reliable. It's one of those things that if you had one, if you shot one, you kind of knew what it was all about. And dare I say, it might have been better than the Ruger Mark II that at the time was kind of one of the in things to have. But the trigger on it's very nice and light. I'll even go inside, go over this a little more, and if you want, I'll even do a disassembly to show you how it takes down and everything. Very simple. I would argue that even though you do have to have a tool to take this down, on the back it's a 1/8 hex thing. It takes apart, I think, a lot easier than a Ruger Mark II and the Browning Buckmarks and some of the others out there. And because of how light it is, it's actually fun and easy to carry around. With an 8-inch barrel, it's very accurate. Something that I'm surprised they stopped making. The magazines, like I said, that was the downfall of it. You can't really find them anymore. I don't know if somebody could 3D print one or not, but we'll go inside and take a little bit more of a look at this and take it apart and everything. All right, so let's go over the Magnum Research Mountain Eagle, and I'll compare it a little bit to the Ruger 2245 that they made. The 2245 is a polymer lower, came out in the mid-90s, I think, maybe early 2000s. This one right here is what they call a slab slide. They cut the sides of it to make it a little lighter, and polymer lower, has an 8-inch barrel just like the Lone Eagle does. So let's see how much these things weigh. All right, so we got the scale zeroed out. Put the Ruger on. Ruger comes out to 2 pounds, 7.6 ounces. Go over here and take the Mountain Eagle, put it on. 1 pound, 6.9 ounces. Pretty good, pretty light for a 8-inch barrel 22. Something that might be kind of neat to take out in the woods and plink around with or something like that. All right, before we get into disassembly and everything, let's just get a little further into this pistol, a little closer up and able to look at it. These are the polymer magazines they came with. They came with 15-round magazines for the Magnum Research one. Ramline, for its version, came with 15 and 20-round magazines. My understanding is the 15s work pretty good. Problem is when the feed lips end up coming out of them, they'll crack over time and stuff like that. Then the magazines become useless. But for something that came out in the 90s, these are really kind of neat and forward-leading. One of the first polymer 22s, kind of copying the style of the Glocks, where people thought they'd go through metal detectors and all kinds of crazy stuff. But the magazines are pretty neat and unique. They have a little lever here so you can lower it down when you load it in. You just need to be a little bit more careful because of considerations for the feed lip when you load it. But these magazines feed very reliable. The pistol itself shoots real reliable. If we look at it compared to the Ruger Mark series and some of the other pistols out there, you got your standard magazine release. If you pull it back, you have your slide lock if you want to push it up, or if you want to release it, you can push down and release it. On the safety lever, you kind of have to push it down and back. So you push it down and then forward. Going back is easy, you just go straight back, but you do have to push it kind of down and forward, and you can see there's a little notch there for it. But when you want to end up taking this thing apart, one of the things that you want to end up doing is making sure that it is charged and that it is on safe. And it makes it a lot easier for taking it apart. If you saw the video I did going over the Thompson, on the Thompson submachine gun, you want to make sure that everything's forward, that it's fired, and that it's on fire, and that the hammer and all that is fully forward. On this one here, it's kind of the opposite of it, but I'll go ahead and show you how quick and easy it is to take this thing down, hopefully. Takedown for it is done with a 1/8 inch hex wrench. Basically on the back here, there's just a little screw that you end up taking out. I think it's a lot easier to do than the Mark II series Rugers and some of the other ones, but basically once you take that out, then you just end up separating the top and the bottom half out. And then there's a pin here that pulls all the way out. Once that pin comes out, you're able to slide the bolt out. And then similar to Mark IIs and some of the other stuff, you can pull the little recoil spring part, non-captured and everything. It just kind of goes in together. But it's a real simple, easy design. Flat-faced here, flat-faced in here. All it basically does is have a pin in there and just goes back and forth. But it's a real reliable, simple, easy design. You can see it has a little bit of the jeweling or whatever they call it on the bolt, make it a little slicker and hold stuff better. But this right here, in my opinion, is one of the more reliable pistols that's out there. And I'm surprised they stopped making it. I think it's a great pistol if you can find one. However, magazines are going to be a problem for it. Let me go ahead and go over a little bit of the features of it. All right, so Magnum Research, they ended up kind of doing that triangular shaped barrel that they have. Gives it a lot more support, I think, and makes it a little bit stronger of a design. It has a nice flat top on here for reflection and glare. Nice orange bright sight you can see. You can change out the sights and stuff like that if you want to. Basically, there's a pin back here, and the pin right here is what retains the barrel ring and the barrel itself onto it. You have an adjustable sight. The sight itself is adjustable for elevation and for windage, so all your adjustments are made off the rear sight here. But like I said, it's a pretty neat design overall. simple bolt that goes in that's jeweled, set up similar to the Buckmarks and the Rugers. Has little tabs on here that you can easily pull it back with and everything, but it's one of those pistols that just works really well. The way the magazine sits in it, everything's just kind of going straight into it. There's no fancy angles, there's no jamming and stuff like that that happens with some of the other stuff that's out there. One of the big differences, I'll see if I can throw a picture up right here for what the Ramline one looked like, but the Magnum Research, I think, came up with a lot better grip setup here, the way the trigger guards curve down, the stippling and grooves that are on here, markings on the side, the back strap, and then there's a little bit of an arch to the back strap as well. So for me, if you can see where my palm kind of meets in there, for me this actually is a real good, easy, comfortable pistol to hold. It's easy to get to the controls and stuff on it, but it's one of the better things out there. I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. It's the same as reverse, so I'm not going to show you that, but it's simple and easy, just like I showed you taking it off. Just make sure that it is hammer back, on safe, not fired. Makes it a lot easier, trust me. Alright, if you happen to own a Mountain Eagle, let me know in the comments down below if you ended up owning one, what you thought of it, how reliable was it for you, how accurate was it for you. Mine are pretty good. I didn't probably show you guys on the bottom of these magazines, on the Lone Eagle ones or the Mountain Eagle ones. They'll have the Mountain Eagle thing on it. I think the Ramline ones ended up having a ram on them. I did end up ordering a few spare parts and sights and stuff like that. I guess it was back in 2000. They stopped making them, I think, right before that, and I was like, well, let me get a few little parts for it and everything. I don't shoot this as much as I should. I'll probably end up doing a video maybe later on shooting this and everything. But it's really a neat, simple to operate, light, accurate 22 pistol, and the reliability actually impressed me. It's hard to believe this thing came out in 1990. It'd be just as popular today, I think, if they kept making them and everything. Sadly, the Ramline magazines weren't that great. And let me trash Ramline here for a second. 1 second. Alright, so Ramline made some really neat magazines right around the time that the crime ban came in the mid-90s. And when that ended up happening, they're kind of highly sought after, but at the same time, they're kind of cheap. This one right here is one for a Marlin that I have, and it has that same coil spring design where it's kind of curling and lifting up versus a spring that's pushing up. But they feed well. I can't deny that they feed well. The problem is some of the glue and stuff that holds them together would pop apart, and then you end up with a magazine that really doesn't work that well. I've had to add glue and stuff into them, but their magazines fed well, they just didn't hold up well. I think nowadays, if somebody were to use that design, 3D printing, or take over, they could probably make some neat stuff. I mean, for the Marlin M60s, Papoose, I don't know if it was M60, M70, but these magazines are a blast to shoot in them. I mean, they're just as good as any Ruger 1022 rifle out there or anything else. The problem was the magazines didn't hold up as well, and then they became hard to find because of the crime ban. Now that the crime ban's over, maybe we'll get some people that'll start making stuff like this again, or maybe, you know, Magnum Research will pick up and go back to it. If enough people demand it, maybe something can change. But like I said, I think it's a great 22 pistol. Something that's very unique. I don't think you see too many of them out there. If you've seen videos out there of these, let me know. I think online I saw a few reports and stuff, and it seems like everybody was just handing off the same 6-inch one that someone had, kind of like, hey, check this out, we'll pass it around for review. But these are really neat pistols, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you would, make sure you give me a like, a subscribe, and follow my channel. I appreciate it. Cav Cop out.